friends, welcome to Happy Go Lucky Farms YouTube channel. I'm Hannah and today we're going to make a whole bunch of different recipes for Bake With Me. Some will be gluten-free, some dairy-free, some regular, some sourdough, and I promise all of our videos aren't going to be Bake With Me. Soon we'll have all sorts of chicks and goat kids and even poults coming soon, which I'm super excited about. So February and March are going to be busy here.
So we started out on Monday watching Trump and Vance take office at the inauguration. And my sourdough starters were super happy, so it was time to start baking. Here I'm showing how to do an intuitive sourdough starter feed. This is feeding flour and water until you get the right consistency. I always say I keep mine at a pancake batter consistency. Now this one is my starter with gluten, and I'm actually starting it from a dollop of sourdough starter from my gluten-free starter. Mom was the real MVP this week. With wind chills in the negative 40s and even school being canceled, she still made sure all the goats, chickens, and turkeys were happy and warm. Here I'm starting my lemon muffins by creaming a half cup of plant-based butter with 3/4 cup of organic cane sugar. Next I add 2 eggs and cream those in as well. Next I add 1 teaspoon of homemade vanilla extract. And then a half cup of almond milk. Next I juice 2 lemons. And now mix. To my wet ingredients, I add 2 cups of gluten-free 1-to-1 flour, and 1 teaspoon salt, and 1 tablespoon baking powder. Now mix that all together. And 2 teaspoons poppy seeds. Bake at 400 degrees for 10 minutes. Then flip them around in the oven. And bake another 7 minutes. Now I'm starting my sourdough chocolate chip cookies with 113 grams of dairy-free butter, 100 grams of brown sugar, and 100 grams of white sugar. Cream the butter and sugars until fluffy. Add in 1 egg. Add 125 grams of active or discard sourdough starter. Add 5 grams of vanilla and mix. Add half a teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/4 teaspoon baking soda. Add 5 grams salt and 220 grams of flour. And measure the chocolate chips with your heart. Bake at 375 degrees for 15 minutes. For the gluten-free sourdough crackers, I started with 3/4 cup of gluten-free sourdough starter. To that, I added 3 tablespoons of olive oil. You could use any melted or liquid fat here. I then added 2 fat teaspoons of salt. And then at the recommendation of the author of this recipe, I added 2 teaspoons of organic cane sugar to cut the tanginess. I then added some garlic powder and stirred it all together. Then dump it out on a lined baking sheet and spread it thin with your spatula. Bake at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. Then take them out and score. And return to the oven for 20 minutes. They turned out amazing and were so good. And while they were baking, I decided to start packaging up sourdough starter.
So one thing I get a lot of questions on sourdough wise is, what is this weird liquid on top? That is called hooch, and you did not kill your starter. It is totally normal, and it just means your starter is hungry and it needs a feed. So if it's doing this after you've already fed it, you can start feeding it every 12 hours instead of once every 24 hours, and that should help.
And next we're on to beef stroganoff. I started by peeling some potatoes to serve it over. You could also use pasta. Once I got the potatoes boiling, I started by adding 3 tablespoons of coconut oil to my pan. Once that was melted, I added in about 1 tablespoon of dehydrated onion and stirred that around. To that, I added 3 tablespoons of gluten-free flour. And just stir that around until a nice roux forms. Next, add 2 cups of broth. And my secret ingredient, a tablespoon of coconut aminos. Keep stirring until a really thick gravy forms. Add in half a pound of browned hamburger. This is where you'd add cooked noodles if you were using those. And serve over potatoes.